राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा गिरिधारी राधे जय राधा गिरिधारी राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। जय श्री शारदा कृष्ण भगवान की जय। श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। All glories to my devotees, all glories to my devotees, all glories to my devotees, all glories to Gauranga. So we'll have Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, chapter 3, a very nice saintly person. Mataji, would like to read that or?
Yes, you. Yeah.
Please read.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. This is a very nice saintly person. Chapter 3. Jai Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita ki Jai. But Abhay remained skeptical. Oh no, I know all these sadhus. He said, I am not going. Abhay had seen many sadhus in his childhood. Every day his father and entertained at least 3 or 4 in his home. Some of them were no more than beggars, and some even smoked ganja. Gaur Mohan had been very liberal in allowing anyone who wore the saffron robes of a sannyasi to come. But did it mean that though a man was no more than a beggar or ganja smoker, he had to be considered saintly just because he dressed as a sannyasi or was collecting funds in the name of building a monastery or could influence people with his speech? No. By and large, they were a disappointing lot. Abhay had even seen a man in his neighborhood who was a beggar by occupation. In the morning, when others dressed in their work clothes and went to their jobs, this man would put on saffron clothes and go out to beg, and in this way earn his livelihood. But was it fitting that such a so-called sadhu be paid a respectful visit, as if he were a guru? Naren argued that he felt that this particular sadhu was a very learned scholar and that Abhay should at least meet him and judge for himself. Abhay wished that Naren would not behave this way, but finally he could no longer refuse his friend. Together they walked past the Parshnath Jain temple to one Ultadanga with its sign Bhakti Vinod Ashana, announcing it to be the quarters of the Gaudiya Math. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Jai. Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtaki. Today we'll be speaking from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 17, verse 28. We could share my screen. Evam manyumayim murtim kritantam iva bibratam pranata pranjali praha mahi sanjata vepathu. Evam manyumayim murtim kritantam iva bibratam pranata pranjali praha mahi sanjata vepathu. Anyone would like to recite this verse?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I am trying.
Yes.
Evam mannamayim murti kritantam eva vibratam pranata pranjalihi praha mohi sanjato vepathu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna
Anyone else?
Prabhuji.
Yes. Sure.
Evam manyumayim murtim kritantam vibratam pranata pranjalihi praha mohi sanjata vepatu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Anyone
Prabhu.
else?
I am trying as well.
Sure.
Evang manomaying murting kritantamiva bibhratam pranata pranjali praha mohi sanjata vepathu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Anyone else? No? Okay. I'll go to the synonyms. For that, once again, Evam manyumayim murtim kritantam iva bipratam pranata pranjali praha mahi sanjata vepathu. Evam, thus, manyumayim, very much angry. Murtim, form. Krita antam, death personified. Yamaraj, Iva, like. Bipratam, possessing. Pranata, surrendered. Pranjali, with folded hands. Praha, said. Mahi, the planet Earth. Sanjata, arisen. Vepathu, trembling in her body. Translation by Divine Geshe Prabhupada. At this time, Prithu Maharaj became exactly like Yamraj, and his whole body appeared very angry. In other words, he was anger personified. And after hearing the planet Earth began to tremble, she surrendered and with folded hands began to speak as follows. At this time, Prithu Maharaj became exactly like Yamraj, and his whole body appeared very angry. In other words, he was anger personified. After hearing him, planet Earth began to tremble. She surrendered and with folded hands began to speak as follows. Purport by His Divine Geshe Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is death personified to miscreants and the Supreme Beloved Lord to the devotees. In Bhagavad Gita 10.34, the Lord says, Vrittih sarva haraschaham, I am all devouring death. Faithless unbelievers who challenge the appearance of God will be delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead when He appears before them as death. Hiranyagarbha, for example, challenged the authority of God, authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Lord met him in the form of Nrsimhadev and killed him. Similarly, the planet Earth saw Maharaj Prithu as death personified, and she also saw him in the mood of anger personified. Therefore, she began to tremble. One cannot challenge the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in any circumstance. It is better to surrender unto Him and take His protection at all times. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Charu Swaminiti Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Tamal Krishna Goswaminiti Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Shra He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva Cha Patitanam Pavinibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So we actually, at the moment, hearing about how Prithvi Maharaj is very angry on Mother Earth because Mother Earth was not providing the grains that was required for the citizens of the earth. The Lord becomes angry in different times, in different situations. For example, when He ordered, in fact, He requested initially to Varun Dev, as Lord Ram, when He appears at Lord Ram, He requested, he meditated on Varun Dev for 3 days and said, give us the way. Now he displayed the pastime, showing exactly how we should behave towards other people. That is, we should first be very humble and put a request very nicely, you know. So even though the Supreme Personality of God, he could have ordered Varun Dev straight away, but he instead meditated for 3 days. But when Varun Dev did not accept or did not appear and accept his plea, then the Lord Ram became extremely angry. He said, I ordered you. I've been requesting you, and you're not giving the way. Now I'm gonna destroy you. And that's when he took his bow out, put the arrow on the bow to destroy Varun Dev, that's when Varun Dev came out and said, "Please forgive me, my dear Lord, please forgive me." And he said that I'm extremely sorry for my misbehavior. What I'll do is I suggest you get the um, services of Nal and Neel, who will be able to build a bridge for you. And in this case here, we also see when Prithu Maharaj got angry on Bhudevi, Mother Earth, because she was not providing the grains. The Lord also becomes angry when his devotees are put in danger by other devotees, other people. For example, when Kuber's son, Giant, took up the form of a crow and bit the Vakshasthal, or the part here of of Mother Sita, and blood started coming out, Lord Ram became extremely angry that how dare you do that to my beloved. So anyone who's beloved, dear to the Lord, his energy, his devotees, the Lord cannot tolerate any offense against them. So he basically shot the arrow, and Giant went to different places, different demigods, asking them for shelter, for the protection. But eventually Narad Muni told him to go and take shelter of the Lord because you've offended him. You need to go and take shelter of him. And that's when, and then eventually Giant came and fell at the lotus feet of Ram, begging for protection. And of course, the Lord was very kind. When someone surrenders to the Lord and begs for his protection, the Lord becomes all protective. He becomes very pacified. We also see in the past temple Lord Krishna that when on the battlefield, Bhishma Dev was hitting bows after bows, so arrows after arrows to kill Arjuna. And to protect his devotee, Lord Krishna, even though he vowed that he will not take up any weapons, but he became so angry that he took the chariot wheel and he went towards Bhishma Dev to kill him. We also see the pastime for Lord Chaitanya, where Lord Chaitanya became very angry. This is because Lord Nityananda Prabhu was offended, was hit by Jagan Madhai. He invoked his Sudarshan Chakra to kill them, but Nityananda Prabhu begged on their behalf for mercy. And when the Lord took out his Sudarshan Chakra, Jagan Madhai became extremely fearful, in the same situation as Bhudevi is experiencing today in this situation. They became extremely fearful. They were fearing death. But the Lord became merciful upon the request of Lord Nityananda. And of course, the other situations when the Lord becomes extremely angry. When also in this situation where Prabhupada explains that the Lord becomes extremely angry upon demons like Hiranyakashipu, who was wanting to kill Prahlad Maharaj. He made many attempts to kill Prahlad Maharaj. Hiranyakashipu was so powerful that he basically controlled the entire 14 planet system. So Prabhupada explains that all the 33 million demigods were under his control. In fact, it is said that Narad Muni became Hiranyakashipu's foot servant. That's how powerful Hiranyakashipu was. But when Prahlad Maharaj was in danger, the Lord could not tolerate that anymore. He appeared. He protected him many times, but the Lord could not tolerate anymore. And he appeared in the form of Nrsimhadev, and he killed him. But even after killing Hiranyakashipu, the Lord was still so much in anger, and no one could go in front of him. You know, the demigods requested Lakshmi Devi to go forward, but even Lakshmi Devi was fearful. Then eventually they requested Prahlad Maharaj to go and buy the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. And for the reason he appeared, Lord Nrsimhadev became pacified and became quiet and peaceful and calm. So there are times when the Lord becomes extremely angry, and the Lord becomes angry uh, for, like I said, for a couple of reasons. But he cannot tolerate any offense against his devotees. It's one of the biggest reasons why the Lord becomes angry. Now, a lot of times people have the vision of God as someone who is angry, someone who punishes you if you do not do certain things, right? Um, in some religions, the God is known as a God of fear. Like if you don't do this, you'll get punished. In fact, I remember a couple of years ago, one of my nephew was saying that he was fearful of God because he said that God will punish you. This is how people sometimes uh, speak about God. God, if you don't do this, God will punish you. If you don't this puja, if you don't do this activity, God will become extremely angry. Of course, with the demigods, it's different. Demigods, if you do certain things in the wrong way, certain things are not right and done in the right way, that certain puja is not in the right way, then of course they become angry. Um, for example, Indra, right? Indra became extremely angry because the Vrajavasis wanted to stop uh, doing Govardhan Puja, Indra Puja, and they instead started doing Govardhan Puja. But the Supreme Lord doesn't get angry if you make small mistakes in his seva. He knows that his devotees are trying to make an attempt to serve him. So he sometimes ignores those small mistakes, knowing that they're making an attempt, the devotee is making an attempt. But the thing is, because people are sinful, they worship God out of fear. They worship God because they think, if I don't do this, God will punish me. If I don't do this, God will punish me. But in fact, the Lord does not become pleased when someone worships him out of fear. The Lord becomes extremely pleased when someone worships him out of love. So in this case here, we've seen that the Lord becomes extremely angry. He was basically like Yamaraj personified, and he was basically anger personified as well. I'm sure how many how many of you have actually seen Yamaraj? Have any of you? I'm sure you all have seen him in our previous lives. Maybe not yet, but in previous lives we have seen Yamaraj. We must have definitely had some connection with him. Of course, we don't know how the interaction would have been, but um, um, I'm sure there must have been a fearful situation. Um, in fact, seeing his servants like Yamadutas is fearful, and we hear stories about how people become fearful when they see Yamadutas. So, in this case here, we should understand that the Lord does not get angry for any reason. Lord becomes only angry when something is not done, when his command is not followed, or his devotees are not um, taken care of nicely, they're offended. So in this case here, um, Bhudevi was not producing the grains for the citizens, and of course, grains are produced when the yajna is performed, and when the yajna is performed, then there's rainfall, and then from rainfall comes the rain. King Vena did not perform any yajna, so Bhudevi did not produce grains. This is her argument eventually. She says that, oh, because King Vena did not perform yajna, so I didn't produce them. But the Lord says, irrespective, it's your duty to provide grains, just like um, It's the duty of sun to appear and provide sunlight. It's the duty of Vayudev to provide oxygen. And it's the duty of the other demigods to provide whatever they services they're providing, irrespective whether they are offering you making you any offerings to them or not. So in this case here, actually, if you look at it, Acharya explained that Bhudevi was chastised, but the Lord was actually teaching us through this that um, if you don't do your duty, prescribed duty, then you'll get punished. You'll get scolded for. Just like, for example, right, in the material world, if the child does something wrong, of course the parents, the dad, will scold at him and get angry at him. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? You know, become extremely angry because the child hasn't done things the right way, or whatever it is. He may have done something really wrong, really bad. So in this case here, Lord Prithu is actually getting angry. But actually, if you look at it, Prithu Maharaj is getting angry at Bhudevi, but actually he's teaching a lesson to us as well through this example. Just like, for example, it's said that if a mother-in-law wants to say something or chastise or say something to the daughter-in-law, she would not say something directly to her. Instead, she would get angry at her own daughter. But that message is actually to be passed on, is actually indicated for the daughter-in-law. The mother-in-law will get angry and say so many things about to the daughter. Even the daughter has not done anything wrong, but she will scold the daughter. But that message is actually intended for the daughter-in-law. The same way that the Lord is actually chastising Bhudevi, but actually if there's a message for us as well. From this, he's actually saying that you are not doing your prescribed duties. Our prescribed duty is what? Savai pumsam paro dharmo jado bhakti radukshaje. Our duty is to serve the Supreme Lord through unconditionally, and within and in non-stop, in any without any break. So we have to continue doing our duties by serving the Lord. We must continue doing our service towards Hari, to the Guru, to the Vaishnavas. In a society, we've got all responsibilities towards them. So in all situations, we must engage in the service of the Lord, no matter what the situation is. That's a great teaching, actually, from the scriptures. Acharya explained that we have to become submissive. In fact, just like the Supreme Lord becomes angry, the spiritual master becomes angry. And when the spiritual master becomes angry, I'm sure those who have experienced that anger will realize how it can be, how fearful it can be. So if you think about, if you want to experience what the anger is like of the Supreme Lord, probably you could see the anger of your Guru Maharaj. I remember that myself, because I was chastised once by Guru Maharaj, and was really angry, and I was like fearful. I was almost in my tears. But actually, when the Guru becomes angry, there's actually a blessing in disguise. He's teaching you something. So we must surrender to the Guru, to Krishna, and serve them nicely. When the spiritual master and the devotees, the Vaishnavas, are served, the Lord becomes extremely happy. And when you get chastised, when you get scolded for by the spiritual master, or even your elders, the foremost thing is you must remember is we should not argue with them. In fact, when there's an argument, and if your, for example, your wife gets angry on you, or your husband gets angry on the wife, the best thing to do, the best way to get out of that situation is to just keep quiet. Just don't retaliate, don't respond. We sometimes react. We react, then it becomes tu me. It just goes on and on, and it's an never ending situation. So the best thing is just don't argue, but rather become submissive and surrender. In this case here, we see that Prithvi Devi was trembling. She was trembling, and because she had never seen that form of the Lord previously, she was given the form of the cow, and all the time the Lord would appear uh, to protect her, to destroy the miscreants that were um, troubling her. But this one of the times when the Lord actually becomes really, really angry on Mother Earth, and she was trembling. She was literally trembling, and in this situation, she understood that there is no other thing that she didn't do, but rather simply become submissive. And by taking protection, surrender and seek the Lord's protection. If we seek the Lord's protection, then we become protected, uh, irrespective of whatever situation it may be. The Lord becomes extremely pleased. He becomes pacified when we seek His protection. Um, so, for example, when a cat, the way the cat carries a mouse and the way the cat carries his own kittens, you can see how the two differences there. That basically, the cat is like a death personified for the rat, and the cat attacks the rat. But the same kitten is affectionate towards its own kittens. The same cat becomes affectionate towards its own kittens, and carries the kittens in his mouth. With the same mouth, he would normally attack the cat, the rat. So we must surrender to the Lord, and by the mercy of the Lord becomes pleased and becomes abhaya. We become abhaya. The Lord does abhaya varata. That means he becomes in this posture that he normally see in his deities. That's a abhaya varada posture, and by that the Lord says, "Don't worry, I'm here to protect you." And we must always realize that the Lord comes in the form of death for those who don't believe in Him, for those who are believers, unbelievers, or who are faithless. The Lord appears to them in the form of death. I know a lot of people said that when death comes, people becomes extremely, extremely fearful, and some of them actually pass, stool or whatever in the bed when they see the sight, when they see the Yamadutas, the death personified Yamdut or Yamraj. What to speak of, even in some situations when we see a fearful animal, a creature attacking us, we become really, really fearful. But the Lord says that anyone who surrenders to me, it is my duty to protect them. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Raja Aham Tvam Sarva Papyabhyo Mokshishyami Ma Shucha. Surrender unto me, do not fear. In the same way when Vibhishan took shelter of Lord Ram said that anyone who says, I'm yours, Tomasmi, I am yours. The very moment we surrender to the Lord takes charge. He provides us full protection. This is what called Prapatti. Sri Ramanujacharya says Prapatti. Prapatti means Sharanagati, complete Sharanagati. When we take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the Lord provides full protection. In Sri Ramanujacharya explains there's two types of Nyaya. There's called Markat Nyaya and there's Marjara Nyaya. So, for example, in Markat Nyaya, the baby monkey is holding onto the mother monkey. He's on his own self holding onto the mother monkey. And when the mother monkey jumps from one tree to another, it is a duty of the child to hold her tight. But if the monkey is jumping from one tree to another, and if the child that's holding onto the mother monkey falls down, then whose fault is that? Is it the mother's fault or is it the child's fault? It's the child's fault because the child is not holding the mother nicely, strongly enough to. However, in the Marjar Nyaya, Sri Ramanujacharya says, when a lion or a tiger holds the cubs in her mouth and takes her out of danger, for example, if she sees danger, she holds onto the cubs into her mouth, and she takes her to a protected place, a place where the cubs can be protected. Now, if on the way when the lioness is taking the cubs away, if the cub falls down, whose responsibility is that? It's the responsibility or the fault of the mother or the lioness. So, in the same way, if we do full surrender to the Supreme Lord, we seek His protection, we take His refuge, the Lord takes charge. The Lord takes charge. And if something happens, the Lord, it's the responsibility of the Lord, not to surrender itself. This is where when Sri Ramanujacharya went to Melkota and he went to see, the name of the Lord was Adikeshav, one of the deities in Melkota. And the deity spoke to Ramanujacharya. He said, what are you doing? How are you bringing these people to me? What's the magic? Then Ramanujacharya said, well, it's a big secret, I have to tell you, but I can't tell you. It has to be done in a way that, I can't just tell just like that. There's a price for it. Anyway, this whole thing happens, and then Ramanujacharya says, my dear Lord, please promise me that whoever I bring to your shelter, to you, you give them full shelter and do not leave them. And the Lord said, I will. Anyone you bring to me, I will protect them. I'll look after them. Anyone who surrenders to me, it's my responsibility to protect them and look after them. So the Lord is very pleasing, very merciful, very loving. And in Vaidhi Bhakti, we do Bhakti because there's a principle of fear there. We fear the repercussions. And that's because, there's If we, as I said earlier, we do this, we don't do this, then we'll get this result. We don't do this, we get this result. But in rag marg, in devotion, loving devotional service, the Lord becomes extremely pleased. The Lord becomes very, very happy. He ignores some mistakes you might make, because you are having the loving relationship with the Lord. You know? Just like Nrsimhadev becomes very pleased with Prahlad Maharaj when Prahlad Maharaj was offering prayers to him. He was glorifying the Lord, and the Lord becomes specified. So most important thing is we must realize that we must not challenge the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in all circumstances. The Lord is the supreme authority. He is all topmost. Just like the king, right? Or if you say, a lot of times you might have this situation in your own workplace. You've got a manager. Would it be appropriate for you to argue with the manager, or would it be just quiet, listen what he says? If an instruction is giving you, just obey that. Of course, you will. A good employee will basically listen, and rather than getting into arguments and arguing, and eventually, what will happen? There could be a situation where he might lose his job one day because the manager will say, this guy is actually not the best fit. He always challenges my authority. He's not a team player, and he's a big headache. So, but in this case, we must always accept the Lord's authority. Don't challenge it in any circumstances. And the next thing is we must approach the Supreme Lord when we're in danger or whatever situation we are in. We must approach the Supreme Lord, surrender to Him fully, and seek His protection. When we surrender to Him, we seek His protection, and the Lord becomes extremely pleased. He becomes specified, and that is actually how the Acharya explained. Prabhupada mentions many times in Srimad Bhagavatam and other books that we must take full shelter of the Supreme Lord and surrender to Him and seek His protection. So I will end here now. Anyone has got any comments that they would like to make? Question? Hare Krishna.
Yes, please continue.
Yes, Prabhuji. Any questions? Any comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice class with the many examples. How the Lord became angry in different times, different circumstances. And yes, I like that best example of Ramanuja Acharya about the two Vairagyas, how we can surrender to Lord. Just I have one small questions about that. How became Ramchandra became angry to Varun Dev? Is it while the Ram is making that bridge to go to the Lanka that time?
That's right. So what happened is that Lord Ram wanted to go to Lanka, but he saw the ocean, big ocean, and he was not. He said, if Varun Dev could give me a way, then I could go without any issues to Lanka.
Okay.
But Varun Dev was not basically listening to the Lord's prayers. So that's where the Lord became extremely angry, and the Lord was about to basically destroy the ocean. And when that happened, because of the anger of the Lord, the actual ocean started kind of boiling, became trembling. And that's when Varun Dev appeared and begged for forgiveness. And then he suggested he advised the Lord that, my dear Lord, you take the services of Null and Neil, who were the engineers,
Mhm.
and they will be able to help you by building a bridge on this on the ocean from here to Lanka. And when the Lord, um, because the Lord has already taken out his arrow, he said, I can't just put this arrow back into my bow, into my, I take it back. I need to release it now. So that's where he asked Varundev, what should I do with it? So Varundev said, you release it to destroy the demons in the north. So because you have to release it, so you release it to and destroy the demons in the northern side. So that's one example of how the Lord became angry.
Okay, so who helps then to make a bridge?
Null and
Varun
Neil.
Dev? Null
Null and Neil, they were the engineers. So they were the ones who helped the Lord. And of course, there's a story that how Hanuman um, tried to put the stone in the ocean, and the stone and the rocks sank.
Mhm.
And then he wrote the name of Ram, and then when he put that on the ocean, it floated. So the engineers were there, which is Null and Neil, and all the monkeys helped towards building the bridge.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Any comments? Amash Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the very nice class, particularly dealing with various aspects of our bhakti, and particularly while explaining the how the Supreme Lord becomes angry sometimes, and he and the different occasions where it happens, but specifically outlining that Lord becomes very angry when his devotees are put into trouble by those, and Lord in that particular case appears himself, and particularly giving the example of Hiranyagarbha, because Lord sometimes, sometimes when devotees makes small mistakes, they are excused. But when any person who is against the devotees, Lord to protect the devotees, Lord personally sometimes appears, and he was given so many examples. The examples of Bhishma, in case of Bhishmadev, how the Lord was the commitment given to Arjuna previously. Lord tried to break it and even tried to help Arjuna by attacking Bhishmadev. And similarly, in case of Hiranyagarbha, he was so angry that he himself came, and he was so angry that even after killing Hiranyagarbha, his anger was not subsided, and
That's
even
right.
Lakshmi Devi was fearful that she didn't approach him to pacify her when others told her to do that. But Prahlad was able to pacify him by his prayer. And so, and in another example, you have told that for us, for the common person, the best thing is to surrender to the Lord, as Lord has given the instruction in Bhagavad Gita 1866, Sarva Dharman Parityajya. So once we take shelter of the Lord, we are protected fully, and that protection is such that we have not to worry about that. And you have given the example of Ramanascha, particularly the Marjaro and the Murkoto, two examples. In case of the cat, in case of a monkey, it is the child's responsibility to get protected, to hold the mother, to make sure that it is not put into difficulty when the monkey jumps from one place to another. But in case of a cat or in a similar species, it is the mother's responsibility. They take care of the child in such a way. And for us, the best way is for a devotee is to surrender completely. And in that case, the Lord takes the responsibility. And
That's right.
And when the Lord protects anyone, I think that is the best protection. And in fact, that is the best situation. And other thing you have also told about the two bhaktis, the Vaidhi Bhakti and the Raganuga Bhakti. In case of Vaidhi Bhakti, one does with a mind, a fearful mind, that the Lord will be annoyed, or so for that he does it. But when it is done with love and affection, in Raganuga Bhakti, that is the best also. And in fact, that is the mood of the gopis also. And so our aim should be for the Raganuga Bhakti, and if we try to do that, the Lord will help us also to reach that stage, and with love of the Lord, and with our extreme desire to have the love of the Lord will help us, and in this way we can attain the highest.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his song says,
that is to serve the Lord. Thank you, Prabhu, for the nice question.
Yeah, in fact, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Atma Nivedana Dvapade Kori Hoinu Param Sukhi. If we completely surrender unto the Supreme Person of God, only then we'll become happy. Our goal is to become happy. So yeah.
When we surrender all our things and everything we have, we think it is the Lord's, and we surrender it to the Lord fully, then we become free from from all anxieties, in other words.
That's right.
And that is the goal of a bhakti. If anybody else has anything to share, please, the devotees, please, you can make it.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you for the very nice class. Can you hear me? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu. So it was I mean, this episode has got so many learnings, so many different ways, and you brought out a lot of interesting, examples, and so much of learning in today's class. Like the example that, I mean, the thing that the Lord does not, we should not worship God in a fearful mood. That was a very nice learning for me. And the other thing was, as you were saying, surrendering. So I was, when I was reading this verse, it came to me that actually service, when we are given a service, when we are employed by the Lord for some service, then it's a very rare opportunity. And if we have to do our service properly, not shirk in our service. So that was one learning I got from it also. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so ultimately, surrender is what the Acharya explained, Srila Prabhupada emphasized many times. Just surrender is one life to Krishna. That's all we have to do. And engage in the service, loving devotion service. And when we do that, our life becomes perfect.
And also, Prabhuji, just in this context, what you have already told is that, and human life is the opportunity, in fact. No other species of life has got this opportunity. So human life is one sense, as it is mentioned, that it is rare in one sense and very easy, because we have got it very easily by getting human birth. But it is an extremely rare opportunity.
That's right.
And if we fail to utilize this opportunity, we have no other. I mean, we will not get this opportunity anymore, and we have to.
That's right. That's right.
Remain in this cycle of continuous birth and death for another very long chain of life. So let us utilize it for the service of the Lord. And when you understand it, and our faith to serve the Lord becomes more activated, and the opportunity is also, and let us hope, I mean, and we becomes more surrendered to the Lord, so that we can make it successful in this life itself.
See, I think in this regard, one point comes to mind is that if we do perform our responsibilities just as prescribed in the Shastra, then there's no reason why the demigods will not provide us. And like the Supreme Lord provides us, it says that Krishna ke seva kele sarva karma kriti hoy, right? So when we perform devotional service to the Supreme Lord, we don't have to serve different demigods. They all provide us because they know that we've met the requirements. That's just for example, if you're applying for a visa to go to a country and you've provided all the documentation, you met all the requirements, there shouldn't be any reason why your visa should be declined. So if we surrender and we perform our duties exactly how the Lord wants us to perform, under the guidance of the Vaishnavas and Guru, then there's no reason why we should be unhappy. We should. The demigods will provide us everything. The Supreme Lord will bestow His mercy always keep us under His protection. So, anyone else would like to share anything?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dhanurvam. Thank you for the nice class. Just this issue of the Lord getting angry, and in the reality, in our life, I mean, the spiritual master represents the Supreme Lord. So sometimes He chastises for our own good, and it's a mercy the spiritual master chastises, because then He knows how close He is to us. Our spiritual master is Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami. He was known as a heavy guru. It's very, very heavy. And once somebody asked him, Maharaj, why are you so heavy with the disciple? So Maharaj said, because I want to teach them how to do perfect service to their Lordship, whoever they are serving. He said, Prabhupada taught me the way the service should be done in a very humble but a very perfect way. And if the disciple is not doing that, then it's the duty of the spiritual master to correct him and improve his service. So in Fiji, he used to be very heavy. I know the temple person once arranged for a bus which had a leaking, the oil was leaking. And he chastised the president so badly. And the president told me later on, oh, at that time I felt like living the moment. But then I reflected, he said, no, this is for my own good. I was negligent in my duty. So the spiritual master sometimes can be heavy, and we have to take in the right mood that he's chastising us for our own good, our own benefit, so we can progress, spiritual progress very nicely. So this is a mood. So very good. We had so much, especially me, I had learned so much from my spiritual master because it was very, very heavy. Thank you.
And of course, the spiritual master doesn't get angry on anyone. He would only know who can tolerate, I would say. He knows who will be able to bear it and not leave and go, So the spiritual master knows who's able to bear it. Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else? No? Okay, so we'll end here. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Anantakati Vaishnava. His Grace Hiranyagarbha Prabhu ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna devotees.